This video is intended to explain what an escalation clause that goes with an offer for a purchase of a home is, what it is, how it works, and the circumstances under which it can be used. So first of all, what is an escalation clause? It is an extra addendum that goes with an offer to purchase that says that whatever you're offering as a purchase price, for the sake of this video, let's call it $500,000. Whatever you're offering could potentially be made to go higher in the event of a competing offer that is higher than yours. The way it works is you fill in a few different pieces of information, but the most important ones are your top bid, so your cap, the highest you'll go. So in this example, let's say the highest you would go would be $525,000. And the increment above the next highest offer that you are automatically authorizing the listing agent to take your bid. Let's call the increment $5,000. What that means is that if another person comes in and offers $510,000, you are automatically authorizing that listing agent to take your bid from the original 500 up to 515. To be clear, if you use an escalation clause and it is submitted with your offer, if someone else does come in and has an offer higher than yours, you don't get a phone call where you can decide if you really want to use your escalation clause or not. It's part of the offer, so it will automatically go up. So to play the scenario out till the end, what happens if that other offer or another offer, any other offer comes in, and let's say it's $522,000. You have an increment of $5,000 not to exceed a $525,000 cap. Technically, some people question, well, can I then not, does my offer not go any higher? And while it would seem that way, in almost every case, what you're really saying is that the listing agent can increase your offer by an increment of up to $5,000 if when you're pushing against your cap, it needs to be a little bit less. So you would still, if a $522,000 offer came in this scenario, your cap of $525,000 with an increment of $5,000 would put you at $525,000. The point is that listing agent has not been authorized to take your offer any higher than that cap that you wrote in your escalation clause. So a few things to understand. One of the most important is that a seller can only invoke an escalation clause if there has been another written offer received that allows them to take your offer higher. So in most cases, people use them only when they are offering above list price. But let's take a scenario when you're not. Let's say it's a $500,000 list and your offer is $450,000 with an increment of $5,000 up to a maximum of $480,000. It's still used the same way if another offer does come in at, let's say, $470,000, then you've automatically said yours would go to $475,000. However, and this is the difference between whether it's under or over list price, if it is under the list price, the seller can just counter. The seller could, whether there's another offer or not, the seller can come back to you and say, I want $490,000. Whereas when you are offering over list price, it's very, very rare for a seller to come back and say, well, if you'll give me this much over, then I'll do it. In general, a seller is not going to counter an offer that is over the list price unless there are other competing offers, and that's when those escalation clauses come into play. So how do you figure out how high you should go or what your increment should be? Well, how high you should go, what your cap is just like any other offer. What's the most amount of money you would want to pay and still feel good about getting the house versus feel like you had buyer's remorse if you had to go to that number in order to get the house. So the way you figure out the highest you'll offer on a property is no different when you're using an escalation clause versus when you're not. The thing that you want to try to work on, the hard part, is the increment. So some people say, well, as long as you're higher than the next guy, why isn't the increment just $1 or $100? Well, the reason is because an offer is not only about the purchase price. There are other terms and conditions. Does your offer have an inspection contingency, a mortgage contingency, an appraisal? Are you able to meet the seller's requests, if there is one, about exactly the right settlement date? So consider that your offer is very, very close to another offer as far as the purchase price, but that other offer has better terms. That's why if your increment is too low, let's say it's $1,000, the seller might choose the other offer if it has terms and conditions that are better. So if you have a lot of what we call legs or terms and conditions to your offer that might not be that appealing to a seller, you will probably need to have a bigger increment over the next closest offer in order to win the bid. If, on the other hand, your offer is what we call very clean, there are no contingencies at all, you can settle exactly when the seller wants to. In that case, you probably don't need to beat any other offers by more than $1,000 or a couple $1,000 because they won't be able to have anything that's better than yours if yours truly is non-contingent. So why do people use escalation clauses? Because they're hoping that they won't actually have to go as high as they are willing to in order to get the property. If you have an escalation clause of up to $525,000, that implies you would be willing to pay that much. But if somebody else, the highest offer next to yours is $510,000 and your increment's only $5,000, then you theoretically would get the property for $515,000 and you wouldn't have to go all the way to your highest of $525,000. Because of this, and savvy agents and sellers who understand this, often you will find that escalation clauses are not even being permitted. So you'll have an agent who says, no escalation clauses allowed, highest and best offers, please. Because they don't want to, quote, leave money on the table. So this is an explanation about what an escalation clause is. And there are definitely still agents and circumstances and sellers where they are accepted. But just be aware that there are also many scenarios where sellers will not take them. But regardless, it's important to understand that it is a tool that's in the toolbox. It's something you should discuss with your agent. You may or may not have an opportunity to use it, but it's just good to understand it's one more, again, tool in your toolbox when you are making an offer that could help you get the property that you're bidding on.